African Association, GABA, in partnership with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Nia Black, Amuzie of Nia Black Studios. I'm a media personality based in Houston, Texas. And I'm so honored to continue to serve as your host for this event. As a refresher, please note that this is a virtual event. And so if you're not speaking, make sure your microphone is turned off. We want to be very respectful. All right. Today's discussion will focus on public-private partnership projects, ownership, transition, and operations. Now, in regards to public-private partnership projects, which some people call PPP, while others call it P3, the question here is, how does it impact the people of Nigeria, especially those at the very bottom? While Nigeria has seen a fusion in recent years of foreign direct investment, in particular from China, what does this mean for the homeland people in terms of knowledge transfer, job training and opportunity, and overall economic activity? So these are some of the questions we hope to tackle today with our lineup of speakers, all of whom are experts from Nigeria and here in the United States. They will share their insights on public-private partnership projects with discussions surrounding who owns it, how does the project get transitioned, and who operates and maintains this project after the fact. Now, before we delve into this insightful conversation, let us welcome Victoria Akai back. She is the General Director of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She's going to come back to the stage to give an opening message for today's event. Victoria, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Nia. Good afternoon and good evening from Nigeria. We know we have a diverse audience, and there could be, could not be happier to be a partner to bring this esteemed conversation to you this day with Monterey Company and the Global African Business Association. Like yesterday, we have searched and found tenured individuals from the business sector, academia, Nigeria's community stakeholders, and diaspora to champion this conversation about public-private partnership projects and the economic ramifications to the Nigerian economy. As in the first discussion held yesterday, July the 24th, today's discussion is a solution-driven one, and the intention is not for it to become a debate of who did what, but how, as a country, we can engage experts at home and abroad to formulate a path forward for the country. Again, thank you all for logging in today, and let the conversation begin. Nia, back to you.
Thank you, Victoria. Can you turn on your video so we can see your beautiful face? I know you're done speaking, but still, okay. Awesome, thank you, Victoria.
Oh, my video is on.
Okay, yeah. Now it's on, okay, perfect. Thank you for that beautiful message, very well said. All right, at this time, I'm gonna introduce the moderator for today's conversation. His name is Akindele Akinyemi. As the president and the CEO of the Global African Business Association, GABA, Mr. Akinyemi brings 20 years of educational and political experience ranging from K-12 classroom experience, curriculum evaluation and development, educational public policy education in both K-12 and higher education, not just at the local level of government, but at the county, state, and federal levels of government. In addition, Mr. Akinyemi is the National Political Director of the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, NAPAC USA. Mr. Akinyemi has a BS in African American Studies from Eastern Michigan University, an MA in Educational Leadership with an emphasis in curriculum and instruction from the University of Phoenix. Mr. Akinyemi has worked and lobbied on public policy issues that included lifting the cap of public schools academics, promotion of male overall. Mr. Akindele Akinyemi, you know what I feel, how I feel about you. You are amazing, and I cannot wait for you to take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Nia, and greetings to everyone on this wonderful event. We're gonna take it to the next level today. dealing with public-private partnerships. I want to introduce the panelists for today's discussion. I'm going to start with Dr. John Osonwa. He is a world-renowned climate change and environmental law and policy and renewable energy expert. He already has my attention already with renewable energy with 25 years of experience. Dr. Osonwa holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English literature with honors from the University of Massachusetts and a Juris Doctor degree in environmental law and policy from Boston University, where he attended on a full academic scholarship. He has served as an editor of the American Journal of Law and Medicine and has been featured on numerous national and international television and radio programs as an authority on climate change, renewable energy, and environmental law and policy. He is the climate change, energy, and environmental expert for NTA, AIT, channels ITV, and numerous radio stations. Furthermore, Dr. Osonwa is a member of the Board of Trustees and the Legal and Strategic Advisor for the Association of Nigerian American Professionals in Nigeria. He is also the consultant for to the Nigerian National Assembly on solid minerals development. We're going to go to our next guest. This is Miss Tanuade Akinyemi Pena, and she is the CEO of the Motre Company, a sustainability project management consulting firm and president of Top Consultant Agency, a business solution consulting firm serving as principal consultant to both organizations situated in West Palm Beach, Florida. With a combined 23 years of experience from the military and engineering industry, she has spent a majority of her tenure in engineering design, project, and construction management. The former capital improvement planning manager of a city with approximately 109,000 people has managed several individual projects, as well as oversaw the management of the capital program of approximately $230 million and was part of the program's oversight teams of Florida's first public-private partnership, major infrastructure program worth about $1.8 billion on I-595 Expressway with the company I-595 Express LLC. Tanu obtained her Master's of Science degree in Project Management from Boston University, a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering with a minor in Business Administration from Florida Atlantic University, and 2 associates in Architecture and Computer Science from Palm Beach State College and Chaminade University, respectively. She has been appointed to a number of regional technical boards and currently serves on the Palm Beach County Aviation and Airport Advisory Board. Mr. Olusegun Bayola is a PhD scholar in the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He has published wide in his areas of interest, including environmental planning, housing development and management, human settlement planning, disaster management, and planning practice. Shagun is the editorial assistant of the Ibadan Planning Journal. He is currently the principal editor at Critical Thinkers Editorial. He has participated in many physical planning projects in Nigeria. He is a member of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, and he holds full registration with the Town Planners Registration Council of Nigeria. Last but not least, Segun Solanke, being highly experienced, commercially astute, and committed business executive, project manager, sports administrator with over 2 decades of experience in banking, sports administration and management, real estate, town planning, and mining. A graduate of town and regional planning from the prestigious Ogun State Polytechnic, where he bagged his H&D. After completing his first degree, he went further to study a second degree in business management from the Imo State University in Owerri. He is a seasoned banker with over 20 years of experience in corporate banking, focusing on financing corporate organizations that are interested in youth development as a corporate social responsibility. Those are our panelists for today. Before we get started, let me lay the ground rules. Before we get into the questions, we like to note today's discussion guidelines to ensure that we hear from each panelist that we asked our esteemed guests to keep their responses to 3 minutes. I will notify you by raising my hand that your time is up. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. So we're going to jump right into the discussion with question number 1. How can Nigeria be on the path of garnering transfer knowledge on PPP projects? I'm going to let Dr. Osonwa take it away. 3 minutes, sir. Thank you. Is Dr. Osonwa available?
Yeah, he's on.
Okay. Can you hear me? Well, while we're waiting on that, I'm gonna let Tanu Pena take it away. She can start and we'll come back.
Okay, thank you, Segun. Thank you, Akindele, for that introduction and opening this event. Sorry about confusing you with Segun.
That's okay, I can be Segun if you want.
So my response to the question is, I think it's important that the country recognize that Nigeria as a country brings value to the table when it comes to negotiating terms of the PPP agreement. I think in order for transfer of knowledge to take place, it has to be put into the agreement such that opportunities are created, not just for local experts to be able to partake in the opportunity, but also to see how we can now start to create an environment that allows for training program. I think every other community, country, there has been a shift towards going to college, university, and deviating away from the technical space when you think about those that are electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, concrete workers. So I think in order for knowledge to be transferred, the country has to be open to creating the framework to engage locals to go into those sectors, as well as make sure they're incorporating it into the agreement. And that's the only way I see forward in order to be able to have a good transfer of knowledge, engaging local talent, as well as creating job training opportunities.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Osonwa, are you there? Okay. Dr. Olusegun, are you there? Going once, going twice.
He's on mute.
Can we unmute him, please?
Yeah, I think he needs to unmute himself. Everybody's able to unmute themselves. Yeah.
All right, so
okay, it's getting.
Yes, I'm
okay,
here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Go right ahead, sir. 3 minutes.
Okay, please, can you call the question again, please?
Sure, absolutely. How can Nigeria be on the path of garnering transfer of knowledge on PPP projects, public-private partnership projects?
Yes, thank you. I think one of the issues that we have presently in the country is about the issue of trust. PPP, public-private partnership. I believe the private sector do not really have strong trust in the public sector. So there is actually a bridge when it comes to PPP in Nigeria. This is different for people that have political affiliation with the political class. I've heard of situations where within the private sector, where that idea comes around and discover that when you let it out, the idea, the political class will steal the idea and try to use the idea without even referring to the owner of the idea in the first place. So what I see is that people try to hold back their idea, or they are sure that when they bring it in, they will be the ones to reap the benefits or the dividend of the idea which they are letting out. What we know is that the public have not really helped the matter, because we discovered that they only sponsor ideas or projects that they have that will bring in, or that will add to their political value, that will add to their political points. So in Nigeria, in virtually every sector, what we'll see is the political class sponsoring idea that will only add to their political points, and something that can be implemented within a very short period, let's say within 4 years, because is a political officer that knows that after 4 years, he will have another term. So invariably, the political public office holder, who are actually the gatekeeper when it comes to launching real-time projects in Nigeria, they will only sponsor projects that know that will be completed in a short while. And this also discourage the private sector in coming in assisting the governments, or in engaging in partnership in things like build, operate, and transfer, and such like. So this is one of many issues that we are experiencing in this part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And okay, do we still have Dr. Because I would like to hear his perspective. Dr. Osonwa, can you hear us? Is he on? Going once, going twice.
Yeah, he's on. I just saw his camera.
Okay.
I've lost him again.
Okay.
Akindele, before you move on, I just wanted to add to, based on what Dr. Falola just stated, in regards to the poaching of ideas and implementation without the original author partaking in that opportunity. I think moving forward as Diaspora, this is where we can help and hopefully fill in the gap, that we can look at avenues to implement policies that can, put a roadblock to such approach. I know everyone thinks, okay, you go to Nigeria, they steal your idea, and then you're left to carry the baggage of that happening. But I think based on the conversation had yesterday, if the federal government can build the capacity and the capability of the regulatory oversight, ICRC, I believe is what it's called, to be able to make sure that projects that are especially unproposed or unsolicited proposals have a true avenue of getting to where it needs to be, accordingly, in order for it to be reviewed and put into a mechanism that allows for a bit more transparency as what goes on in the process. A lot of the things that we're seeing is because there's a lack of infrastructure or framework in place to control how projects are brought to table. And that's why those with the political agenda tend to get what they want by pushing forward their projects without due oversight and controls in place to make sure that doesn't happen, so that the country is actually developing in a planned approach rather than haphazardly, as we've seen.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Tanu. I'm going to go to the next question, and this is and I'm going to start off with Dr. Falola. How do we avoid competition between infrastructure and services delivered by PPPs and by government agencies? Dr. Olusegun Falola, you have the floor, sir.
Please, can you come again with the question, please?
Absolutely. How do we avoid competition between infrastructure and services delivered by PPPs, public-private partnerships, and by government agencies?
Okay, how do we avoid competition between infrastructure and services delivered by PPPs and by government agencies?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Well, in the real sense of it, I really don't think competition between the two is a major issue. And if there is, it requires little effort to avoid this. Being the gatekeeper, as I said earlier, the major party in this will be the government agencies, and the political will to make this happen is very, very important. We have seen situations where we have good idea, we have good projects, good proposals, but the implementation has always been the problem. Implementation from the beginning to the end. Yes, there are project phases, but what we know is that the fact that we agree to engage in this particular project that involves the public and the private, starting up is not the problem, but implementing it to the last stage has always been the major issue. What happened if a project lifespan of, let's say, 10 or 12 years was implemented, let's say 2 years ago, and in the next 3 years, there's change of governments? What happened? What was the fate of the project? We have seen so many cases of abandonments, project abandonments. There's this issue of a dam project in Oyo State, somewhere in Ikere George Dam. It's been there for so many years, and what we see is that you will see a particular political association, maybe with the government when the project was implemented, and eventually when they leave, the new set of government that will be coming in, you abandon the project, and we have seen cases like that. So the major issue to be addressed is the political will. Let's see this kind of project, let's see this kind of developmental project as a plus to us, not as a plus to a political party. Let's see it as a way forward for people. So the political will to actually improve the life of people is what is actually lacking. So when you know that this project is not meant for me, it's not meant for me, it's not meant for my family, it's not meant for me to score a political point, it's meant for the benefits of the people, and it's meant to be sustainable, to last for a very long time, then we won't have problem with this. We have seen, I know that the privates, they have, when they show interest, once their interest is welcomed, and we discover, and it will encourage them to come in with better projects. To encourage them to come with better projects. So with this, I believe if the political class show more will in encouraging the private people from coming in open in areas, in major areas where we think we are lacking in infrastructure wise. So I think that is the major issue we need to address. That's the major issue we need to address. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go to Ms. Tanu. Same question. How do we avoid competition between infrastructure and services delivered by PPPs and by government agencies?
Sorry, you're muted.
I muted myself. Okay. So first and foremost, I'm going to say competition is good. Because I believe it keeps us all on our toe. When you don't have competition, what basically happens is we become complacent and we believe delivering the same old works. However, the notion of government competing with the private sector, I think makes no sense. Government should be in the position to create framework, regulation, standards, and oversight to make sure what they've planned for, rather than having the private sector coming in and saying, okay, we want to do this, but within the comprehensive plan, it makes no sense. How should we move forward then? So if government creates a framework whereby the private sector comes in and develop projects based on what they're looking at to develop within that area, I think that's where the competition can take place, not with the government, but with private sectors actually trying to negotiate the best contract to deliver on what has been planned for in that region. For instance, if Nigeria decides they want to create a interconnected highway system to connect all the corridors from north, south, east, west, which they probably have, but improve on that so that we can have a good movement of goods and services throughout the country. And also when it comes to security, have a movement of, the military accordingly where necessary. To make sure that takes place, I as a private, coming from the private sector or an investor, shouldn't be the one to say, oh, okay, I see there's another way we can divert the road when it doesn't make sense holistically for the country. So I think as far as competition is concerned, it's good to have competition, but for government to be in the fold of it doesn't make any sense. Government needs to work on building frameworks, standards, regulation, oversight, as well as maintenance programs to ensure that, the public interest is protected and the public's money is well invested. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm trying to see if Dr. Osonwa, I know he had trouble. Is he still with us? Has he joined us?
No, he's not on.
He's not on. Okay. Well, I'm gonna move to the next question. and this time, Ms. Tanu can take the first lead on this one. What criteria can be used to determine if a project is suitable to be a public-private partnership?
That's a very broad question, and it has many facets to it when evaluating a project. But I do think Nigeria moving forward should establish criterias as it is now heavily engaged with public-private partnership types of projects. I think they should consider the fiscal costs and associated risk when they're looking at these projects to the government. And when I talk about the government, I mean the people. I think there should be in place a screening approach for its suitability. And what I mean by that is they should evaluate qualitatively and quantitatively certain things about the project. For instance, the project that this individual is looking to establish, has a feasibility study been done to see what are the human impacts, the economic impacts, the environmental impacts? Has this project that wants to be undertaken, has it originally been designed? Because one of the things that come out of the cover of what happens in Nigeria is the fact that some of these projects are on paper, some of these projects are supposedly on paper and completed. In actuality, they're not done. So how do we start to go back to fix all those issues? We need to have a framework, and that's where I know that government can, serve, use the PPP selection criteria to start to look at projects starting from beginning and end, because if a private sector is coming in and they set the criteria and they look at the project and it's doable, they're going to do it because they're profit driven. And because they're profit driven, they're going to make sure they do it in a timely manner to make sure they can recoup what they've invested, basically the return, their ROI, as well as whatever incentives was included in the agreement. Last but not least, I think the government in creating its criteria should also set up what I will call a status checkpoint framework. And that's basically where the government will have in place, which from my understanding doesn't exist, how projects are initiated and monitored for the interest of the people. And it should also include in that checkpoint framework evaluation of the weaknesses and threats to that project. Because one of the things, one of the recurring comments response from Dr. Falola is the fact that projects are started and not completed based on political climate. And for Nigeria to enjoy a robust foreign direct investment, they need to deal with that. Political climate shouldn't be the one driving the development of infrastructure. What should be driving the development of infrastructure is the need of the people, regardless of political affiliation. And that is one of the things that needs to change about how Nigeria conducts itself. Thank you.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. Dr. Olusegun Felola, same question. What criteria can be used to determine if a project is suitable to be a public-private partnership, a PPP? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think of course, there can be several criteria, but then the most important one should be on the basis of need and of course performance, need and performance. And do we really need this project? Do we really need this project? And if we now need it, can government finance it? And if government can finance it, will it be sustainable? And if not, and if government has actually tried and is not being effective or so in that case, then they can reconsider it. Should we engage the private sector in managing this? And if that is the next thing to be done, then the government will provide the enabling environment to make it work. Government will always be a key player because they are the one running the government. They are the gatekeepers. So in other words, the most important thing is the need for the project in the first place. What is motivating this particular proposal? What is motivating this particular project? Is it actually meant to make life easier for people? Then if that is so, then we will not think about it. What can the government do? Can the government finance this? Can the government finance this alone? And if the government should finance this alone, will it be sustainable? If not, then they consider giving out. Then one major factor that determines it is actually the political system being practiced. In Nigeria, our political system favors PPP a lot. So, and I believe that it should be encouraged. In the past 1 decade, there have been cases of privatization of projects, which more or less like converting a government-owned project to a PPP kind of arrangement, because the privatization is actually not 100%. The private sector were given a larger amount while the government take over a minor part of the stake. So this has resulted in major results in several sectors, including the airways, the electricity distribution across the country. And so we have seen so many of such arrangements that have resulted in positive results. Positive results in the sense that much better than when governments were solely involved in the administration and implementation of such projects. So such should be welcome. Such should be increased. There are, even in higher institutions, there are sub projects which Itatu has been financed and managed solely by the government, but now that the private sector have been involved. For instance, in building infrastructure such as hostel facilities in higher institutions, where over the years it has been proven that the government cannot provide accommodation for in higher institutions for all the students. The private sector will come in, they will run it for a period of probably 15, 20 years before the university will now take over the administration. This has reaped several positive results. Thank you.
I saw Dr. John Osonwa into the room. Can he hear us? See his camera. He still can't hear us. Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, his connection is very shaky. He's in and out. I think he's dropped off again.
He's dropped off again. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on. Next question. And this is, I'm gonna start off with Dr. Olusegun. If a PPP project, a public-private partnership project, is profitable, should the government have a share of the profits? If a PPP project is profitable, should the government have a share of the profits? You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much. if the PPP project or arrangement system is profitable, should the government have a share of the profit? Thank you. Yes, the government can have a share of the profit because the government actually collect tax from the people. So, and whatever the government has is meant to be used in trust for the common good of the people. So eventually, whatever the government is getting from the project should go back to the system. So can be used for something that is more sustainable or something that for more present needs. So there's nothing wrong in profit sharing. There's nothing wrong in profit sharing. There's nothing wrong. And eventually for the PPP is a win-win for the government. A PPP that is well run is a win-win for the government. On a good, the government should not lose on any arrangement, on any PPP arrangement, on any PPP project. Government is not meant to be on the losing end for whatever reason, because eventually the project most likely will be domiciled in that same country. The project will be domiciled in the country, and of course, infrastructure project, for instance, most infrastructure are actually fixed. They are fixed, rigid. They cannot be moved, which means if the private sector is coming from outside the country and to come and invest in thermal generating system in the country, for instance, the project cannot be relocated. The project cannot be moved. The physical infrastructure are there and permanent. So eventually, it is a win-win for the government. So that's why it baffles me to know that the government is not supporting this fully. Because if we look at it critically, in the concerning sustainable development, it is a win-win for the government. So sharing the profit should not be an issue. The major issue should be doing the right thing in making the project work. Once the right thing is done, the enabling environment is provided, and the necessary support is given, then it is a win-win for the government. And sharing the profits is not a big deal. It is encouraged. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Tanu, you do have the floor. Same question. If a PPP project is profitable, should the government have a share of the profits?
I guess I take a different approach to profitability. I think it means different things when you look at it from the perspective of who is bringing the project to the table. Under PPP, the private sector, if they're having a higher risk, so their intent will be to make sure they reap their profits. However, based on whatever agreement the government makes with that entity in the partnership, it definitely has to outline how long, based on the study that they've conducted, to see how long can they recoup their investment plus their profit. Anything after that, then I believe should go into a coffer that the government has created. Here in the United States, we have what is called a transportation trust fund, whereby anything associated with transportation, that money goes into that coffer to be able to be used, one, to fund newer projects, maintain existing projects, create new systems. So when you talk about profitability, how I see it working for the government as Nigeria move forward in its development is to ensure that both parties coming to the table have some sort of mutual benefit, that thereby you see more investment come in, and then you see the turnover of the project later on, is something of a benefit to the government as well. So both parties, enjoy the profit of it. That's my response.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think Dr. Osonwa is on the call now.
Dr. Osonwa, are you there, sir? I see him, but can he hear us? It's the question. He's still having trouble?
I don't know. Yeah, it's dropped off again. Yeah.
He's dropped off again. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we wanted to hear from him, but
he's back. I don't know if he can hear us. Maybe give him another try to respond.
Okay. Well, while he's trying to get himself together, we can take questions from the audience for our panelists. Are there any questions directly to Dr. Olusegun or Ms. Tanu? The floor is open. And please don't be shy.
Yeah, actually, I had a question actually.
Okay.
So yeah, hi. Well, thanks so much to the panelists. This is in response to a statement that was raised, a point that was raised by Dr. Olusegun Falola regarding when new governments take over. So how do we ensure projects are carried through irrespective of ruling party? So, where you said it depends, it's the willingness of the government to make those changes. Is there like a central body that, kind of, I'm thinking in the United States where you get Congress to ratify something and it doesn't matter when a different government, a different party takes over. If it's already ratified in Congress, then we ensure that project is seen through. So is there like a senatorial board or like a middle party that can make sure or ensure that projects are carried through irrespective of who the ruling party is?
We on paper, there's one peculiarity with Nigeria, this country. On paper, if you look at it, it's meant to be a working system. It's going to be a working system, most especially because the structure that was being adapted to the country is actually from a working system in most cases. So the issue about it is not actually what is on paper, but what is actually being practiced. That is where the issue lies. What is actually being practiced? And we discovered that in most cases, what is practiced differs from what is on paper in reality. And that's why there's a common adage in the country where you hear that theory is different from practice, which means what is written on paper, what looks good on paper might not actually be implemented the way it is written on paper, and we will live with we will live with it. So, and the theory is meant to drive the practice. The theory is like the plan of what you want to build. It's like when you have an architectural drawing, a working drawing of what you want to build. That is actually the theory, which means you should follow it judiciously. Then you will have exactly what the model have brought out. But unfortunately, so many other circumstances comes in. So many other circumstances, interests. We have several interest groups. We have several other issues that actually affect the implementation of PPP project. So that is the issue. The issue is not the law, is not the policy, but the issue has always been the implementation of the laws, the regulations, the standards, and the policy. Thank you.
To add to that, I would say that here in the United States, each entity, be it the Department of Energy, be it the Department of Transportation, we have a national umbrella, we have a state umbrella. I agree completely with what Dr. Falola said. Nigeria has an issue with abiding to the rules of engagement that they've set for themselves, regardless of what, sector it is. And I think for us to see changes happening in the homeland, we have to have people with the mindset to make sure that implementation of the regulations are take place. But for that to happen, we have to look at the root cause as to why this is taking place. It's become norm in the country that corruption, interpretation of the system the way you see it, those are what the norms are. So you have to get someone in leadership that understands that this change has to take place and break those structures down. I can say for sure, having experienced it firsthand when I used to live in Nigeria under a particular military regime, the regime was so progressive and structured that it allowed for redistribution of food that had already been stored away by some greedy politician. He opened up the economy, things were actually getting better. People like that don't last long when it comes to leadership because they figure a way to eliminate them because the status quo wants to make sure that those systems that work for them and enrich them continues to take place. So in order for us to see a shift as far as development is concerned, that is not party affiliated, the ministries have to be in control. And even though the head of the ministries are selected, it has to be that those that administers whatever they need to administer to make sure the people are served have the will to carry out what is necessary to make the change that Nigeria needs.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the audience who would like to ask a question or make a comment about what we've discussed today on this panel?
Hi, Akindele, this is Sydney.
Go ahead, Sydney. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do have a, I guess it's more of a comment or maybe even a suggestion. Okay. I have been involved with blockchain for some time. And as I've been listening to the panel, all of the challenges that are being faced, whether it's public-private partnerships or it's incentives for private companies, or even incentives for governments to perform well. A lot of these problems are being identified, thought about and resolved through these blockchain networks. And I was just wondering if anyone on the panel had considered how blockchain might resolve a lot of these issues, and even the issue of transitioning governments, because if these rules are set in code, we'll say, then that means it doesn't matter what government is in power, because at that time, the rules have already been set and they're at some level immutable.
Anyone want to take a stab at that question on the issue of blockchain technology?
So the phenomena of blockchain technology, I'm not sure how that translates to those in the homeland in Nigeria. That framework might work in other countries that are a little bit more structured and are good at enforcing. But I think for Nigeria to catch up, we have to address the root cause of a lot of what's happening. Because even if we adopt the best practices of blockchain, so that continuity happens regardless from a project in the medical area or in the roadway sector, for that to take place, we have to make sure that the systems that are causing the disruptions are addressed. And I think until we address that, we're going to continue to have these roadblocks. And I foresee blockchain, if it's truly something that can be adopted, that is part of the program of change that needs to take place. So we address the root cause at the foundation. We go to the intermediary section to resolve that issue, and then tertiary to continue on, where I see blockchain coming into the space. We have to address root cause in order to be able to move forward and catch up in the 21st century.
All right, wonderful. Miss Victoria Akai, you have the floor.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to your call to if we have any questions or comments. I would say mine is more like a comment.
Okay.
I think that the best way to move forward with infrastructural development in Nigeria is to plan with all the stakeholders. So, we have, in order to reduce the number of abandoned projects, we could have all the stakeholders in the planning process, like the financial institutions. Depending on what kind of project it is, We also have the training institutions, because you spoke about the Chinese and foreign investors, or foreign companies coming to carry out infrastructural projects, and then you just leave and there's no knowledge transfer. So if we have a holistic planning process that involves, it starts from the community. It starts from the community, the financial institutions, the construction experts, or whatever experts are available in those fields, and even the organized private sector, really. If we do that, then we're going to have a situation where the banks provide guarantees for funding for infrastructure and collect the money. That way, a government doesn't come and say a project is not its priority, so it's not going to fund it, because that project will be completely even out of the control of the government. These are my thoughts about implementing not only infrastructural projects, but even implementing budgets in Nigeria. If we have community-based budgets, we have call it project planning committee, then we will remove the responsibility of having government always having to provide funds, because then we will take the funds out of the budget, and then government does not have to affect the implementation of those projects anymore. So whoever is there, the projects will go on. What do you think?
Dr. Falola, do you want to take that, or I'll respond quickly and shortly, very short and concise?
Please just go ahead. Please go ahead, please.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Akai, for that comment / question. I think the idea of it is great. Community has to always be engaged, because you don't want to create a project that no one wants to use. I agree 100%. I also agree that the private sector needs to be the economic driver in any, ecosystem when it comes to job creation without too much restriction by the government. However, I think when it comes to a government that has a fiduciary duty towards its people, they have to continue to play a role in ensuring that the people's interest is protected. So I'm looking from outside in, and I'm looking for a society that is structured. So excuse me if I'm a little bit ignorant about how things work at home. But what I see, and I see a great opportunity for Nigeria to change, because we see a strong movement of young individuals interested in ensuring that the future of Nigeria is secured. So with that said, I'm hoping that the comment you made in regards to ensuring that the government really doesn't have a hand in it, I think that creates a slippery slope. It probably create an opportunity for monopoly that we want to make sure that does not affect the future opportunities as the country actually develops. But what I can say is that if all sectors, to include the government, play a role in the comprehensive planning, I think everybody will then be able to find where they sit, so that there is a mutually beneficial development. Not only is government doing its part, but the private sector and all involved are doing their part. That would just be my take.
Okay.
Okay, Tinu, no, I think you didn't quite get my comment correctly. The government agencies and the ministries, yes, will be the coordinators of this planning process, but stakeholders should be properly carried along. Definitely, the project must be domiciled under a certain MDA, but like you, I think it was Olusegun that said that projects start and then they are abandoned. So what I'm saying is, if we carry the relevant stakeholders along, even the financial institutions, they could provide a bond or something for projects. The community is involved, the private sector is involved, even in the process of if there are any procurements or contracting opportunities in the project, and even the training institutions are carried along. So if, for instance, it's a PPP project with the Chinese, we want knowledge transfer. So while we're planning for those projects, the training institutions are also part of the planning. However, it is the MDAs, that the government institutions, that will coordinate those projects. So whoever comes in, the main issue is that projects go on, and then if there's a change of government or change of leadership, the new leadership does not see it as a priority, and then the projects are abandoned because funding is no longer channeled to those projects. But if the planning is done properly and all stakeholders are properly carried along, then no matter what the situation is, the owners of the projects themselves will determine the completion of the project.
And I agree with you.
Because then the money will now be out of the hands of the government, and it will be domiciled with the banks. The community and the other stakeholders will follow up and make sure that the project is followed through to the end.
I agree.
This is what I was saying. Yeah.
Yes, I thought you said to remove the government altogether and that not being part of the, so I misunderstood your comment / question, but you're 100% right. You definitely want to make
that's not,
it comes from
but
them. Go ahead.
Yes, that's right, Tinu. And even now, what we're calling for is to even include the security institutions, the police, the army, the DSS, in planning projects, because now security is a major issue. They need to know where there are important projects and to make their presence visible there so the projects are not frustrated.
Yes, I agree with you 100% as far as including the security element in project planning, so that we can reduce, or we can they can help us look at areas where there are blind spots in the design that can create issues down the line, so that they can close up that gap in the planning and then design and implementation. I agree with you 100%. I think Nigeria's future is bright because we have a lot of individuals now that are engaged and looking to be part of the process. So I am with you 100% on that. Thank you.
Okay, we are beginning to wrap up.
Yeah.
We're beginning to wrap up our time. I'm gonna give 2 minutes to the panelists. Any final words? I'm gonna start with Dr. Olusegun. You have the floor. 2 minutes. Last words. But you have to unmute yourself first.
Are you still with me?
Go ahead. Yes, sir. Any final thoughts?
Thank you.
Final thoughts. 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Our final word. My final word will go by reacting to what Victoria Akai said. Yes, it's actually named public-private partnership because there is at least a minimum level of participation that must involve the private sector. That is why it is named PPP in the first place. So, and that is also bringing back to the issue of what is on paper is not what is being practiced. Of course, the privates are actually stakeholders in this, but level of participation is what is in question. The level of participation, is it only financing? Do they have the authority to influence the level of implementation? Do they have does the level of participation involve auditing and ensuring that transparency is enforced? So these are the critical issues that need to be addressed before any project that involve PPP is being done. Yeah, we can only have a better tomorrow concerning PPP in Nigeria. And I believe knowledge transfer is predicated on the trust that people have in the system. The trust that people have in the PPP projects will determine how successful knowledge transfer will be. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Tanu,
Sure.
And final thoughts.
All I'm going to say as an outsider looking in as what's going on at home, I'm an idealist, and I see the future of Nigeria being very bright. I'm proud to be of Nigerian heritage, and so I am of the mind that we in diaspora have to come to the table, not as those telling them what to do, but in partnership with our colleagues in seeking solutions to help move the country forward. With that said, PPP is a way to go for the country, but we have to make sure that we're not giving up assets that are valuable to the nation's national security, as well as its future economic development, which is basically, to me, the development of its youth in the whole dynamic. So with that said, I want to say thank you for having me as a panelist, and I look forward to what Nigeria has to bring to the table on a global scale.
Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. Job well done. I'm going to turn it back to Nia Black Amuzie. She is going to close us out. Miss Nia, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Akindele Akinyemi. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's conversation. And to, of course, you, Akindele, for moderating so beautifully and so powerfully. Your questions were on point. And thank you, speakers, Ms. Tinu Pena, Mr. Olusegun. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So many takeaways. And what really stood out for me first was the powerful question Akindele asked. He said, if the PPP is profitable, should the government have a share from the project? And what really stood out was Mr. Olusegun's response. He said, sharing the profit is not the problem. It is about making sure the project is done right. That really counters everything I believe in. So it was really good for me to learn something new and just change my perspective. And I'm sure everyone joining today feels the same way. And when Victoria said to move forward with infrastructure development in Nigeria, we have to plan with all the stakeholders. Very, very powerful statement. You know, when we have conversations like this, what I always think about is what's next. Are we just going to talk and then go home and sleep on it? How do we actualize what's next? What's the action plan? And for me, I just want us to take this with us. Whatever we've learned today, positives, you know, whatever strategies we've learned, take it with us so that we can do what? Make our nation better. Like Akindele will always say, this is Nigeria's time. Let's go. It is time for the people. It's all about the people. Again, thank you all so much for joining. And that's all. This officially ends today's conversation. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye.